Hi friend, it's story time again. Tonight, you're lying flat on a narrow cot-inside rafty hangar that groans when the wind pokes through its seams. You're not a farmer or a factory worker tonight, you're a Second World War pilot, half-minus asleep in a place where sleep rarely likes to stay for long. There's a dented locker by your head, dented enough to rattle when someone sneezes 3 cuts down. Your boots are under the bed, soles crusted with oil stains and a bit of mud you carried all the way from the airstrip, somewhere under your blanket. You're trying to convince your body this is comfort's crouchable sheet that never really warms up, a pillow that's more like a rolled minus-up jacket than a promise of softness. Outside, the wind rattles a tin panel loose. It bangs once, twice, like a gentle knock just to check if anyone's still awake. You are, for now. Because pilots don't sleep because they're tired, they sleep because the engines outside might need them at any moment. And engines are demanding creatures. You breathe in its metal, its fuel. It's stale cigarette smoke from the last round of card games that ended an hour ago. You wonder if you should have stayed at that table a bit longer, lost a few more coins to the same tired jokes. But here you are instead, trying to remember what quiet sounds like when you've got tomorrow's sky rolling around in your head. Your hands find that crumpled letter in your pocket, half-minus written, never sent. Maybe you'll finish it tomorrow. Maybe not. Depends on what the weather decides to do with you first. If you're ready to unwind, maybe press like or subscribe only if it feels gentle and right for you. And did love to know where in the world are you listening from? And what time is it there? Now, let the room grow quiet. Let your breath slow. Let the story begin. The light flickers back on. Maybe someone kicked the plug. Maybe the wind rattled dust into the socket. Doesn't matter. Dim yellow fills the hangar again, peeling your eyelids open just enough to remind you that sleep is never really guaranteed here. You roll over, nose catching that stubborn smell of old blankets, a blend of oil, dirt, and the sweat of every man who's laid here before you. It's not exactly comforting, but somehow it says, this spot is still yours for tonight. A quiet shuffle of cards drifts over from the corner. The same few pilots who pretend they can out-minus luck tomorrow's weather, hunched over a crate turned minus stable, muttering jokes too dry to bother repeating. They laugh soft, so the walls won't wake up. Nobody mentions tomorrow's forecast out loud. That's the rule. You catch a glimpse of the small oil lamp behind them, flame swaying like a tired signal beacon. It putters whenever someone leans too close. Even men who swear they're done smoking tonight can't resist. They light one last stick, dragging the ember like it's an anchor to keep their hands steady for a few more minutes. Someone gets up, cigarette between the fingers, walks your way. He doesn't say a word, just holds it out, an offer. You shake your head. He shrugs, moves off. The glow dips into a battered tin can that still smells like beans. The last little spark snaps out with a hiss. Stubbornness only gets so far here. You push your pillow back under your neck this time. It's your flight jacket. Heavier, softer than the duffel bag you used before. There's a patch sewn crooked on the shoulder. You trace it with your thumb like a kid counting stitches. They say good pillows smell like home. Yours smells like gasoline. Same thing these days. Someone mutters in their sleep. You can't tell if it's a word, a prayer, or just a ghost of home sneaking out under the hangar door. Maybe it's better not to guess. You've got your own half-minus built dreams balancing on your ribcage anyway. The wind gives the metal door to testing slaps. Nobody stirs. The hangar is a big hollow drum. It turns your heartbeat into a soft echo and stretches your breath until it sounds braver than you feel. You slide a hand inside your pocket, touch the letter again, folded and hidden deep, like it might try to mail itself if you don't hold it down. Footsteps drag past in the corridor, maybe a mechanic. Maybe just someone chasing hot water to rinse the stale taste of sleep out of their mouth. The steps erase the edge of your half-formed dream, smudge it into a new shape that never quite sticks. Sometimes it feels like this cot is your own little airplane. You spend the night taxiing in circles, never quite taking off, never quite grounded either, just waiting for a green light that might not come. Your pillow slides off again, you let it. Your head sinks straight onto the stiff canvas of the cot. It's cold, but at least it's real. You swallow, dry throat scratching like old paper, and promise yourself you'll only lie here 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes, then you'll be ready when someone barks your name. You sigh at yourself, fine. Fine. You win for now. Your eyes close again. You tell tomorrow, Taj. This bit of quiet, it's all yours for as long as it lasts. The card game finally dies down, or maybe it just drifts behind your thoughts until it stops mattering. The click of a deck shuffling gives way to the creak of boots being tugged off by half-asleep hands. The muttered jokes turn into the low hum of someone snoring too soon. Not you, though not yet. You shift your shoulder under the flight jacket. The stitch patch catches your neck again, a scratchy reminder that tomorrow you'll shrug this jacket back on and pretend it makes you invincible. Pilots are good at pretending. That's half the job. You try to push your thoughts into neat rows like lighting up planes on the runway, nose to tail, waiting for a clear sky, but they won't line up tonight. They drift sideways, loop around. Nose minus dive back into memories that never learned how to land properly. There's the briefing room, all stale coffee and smoke rings. There's the old sergeant, barking half a joke before coughing up the punchline. There's your crew, loud when they shouldn't be, unquiet when you wish they weren't. You turn your face deeper into the jacket's collar. It holds a leftover bit of warmth from the last time the sun caught you outside the hangar. You'd almost forgotten what sunlight feels like when you're not strapped into a seat at 10,000 feet. Somewhere near your feet, something scurries. A mouse, probably smart enough to know pilots don't mind sharing crumbs. You don't open your eyes. Let him have it. HES fighting his own little war under these beds. Your breath slows, stretches. You count it like you decount the engines. For strokes in, for strokes out. Sometimes you wish you could crank your own ribs open like a cowling, just to see if all the pieces are still bolted tight in there. You think about the note in your pocket again. The lines you wrote, tell my meeting well. That lie always goes in first. Tell her it'll be home before the garden needs weeding. Another sweet nothing to keep the house warm while you're stuck in this tin shack listening to the wind peel paint off the walls. Someone coughs near the door. Another boot scrapes concrete. The hangar breathes like a giant thing in its sleep, steel bones creaking, tin skin twitching when the night wind nudges it just right. You pull your knees up a bit, make yourself smaller under the blanket. Somewhere in your chest, your heartbeat mutters, just a few more hours. Just hold tight. And so you do, because that's what pilots do best. They hold tight to rickety wings, broken luck, promises scribbled on scraps of paper, and when none of that holds, they grip the thin line of sleep and pretend it's enough. You count your breath again. You count the engines you'll hear tomorrow. You count the miles between here and home, even though the number never changes. Then you let it all drift, just enough to slip under the hum of the hangar and the hush of the wind rattling doors that never stay shut. Sleep waits, patient as a ground crew leaning on a spanner, ready to kick your boots when dawn says up you get, flyboy. The sky's waiting. But not yet. Not just yet. The clock on the far wall clicks. You can't see it, but you feel it anyway, a slow, stubborn tick that doesn't care if you're awake or halfway folded into a dream. Time doesn't belong to you here. It belongs to the weather, to the engines. To some grumpy man with a clipboard who decides whether today is a day for flying or a day for waiting. You shift, shoulder bumping the thin cot frame. The springs complain in that special way. Half squeak, half sigh like they've seen too many backs crawling on top before you. You whisper an apology to the springs. They don't mind. They've been sworn to silence longer than you've been alive. Someone near you mumbles a name not yours. Not tonight. A mother's name? A girl's name? Hard to say. You don't pry. You're too busy guarding your own little ghosts under your blanket. They gather near your ribs sometimes, tap your lungs when you forget what you came here for. Your hand finds that lucky charm again. Not much, just a dented coin, maybe a ribbon someone tied to your collar back when the world felt smaller and mornings didn't come wrapped in frost. You press it against your palm until you remember you still have hands. Sometimes you need to check. Beyond the hangar wall, the night keeps testing the locks. Wind flicks past in short bursts, like a pilot doing lazy flyers just to prove you're not the only restless thing awake at this hour. The wind knows this hangar well, every loose nail, every tiny gap in the corrugated skin. It whistles its secrets through the seams. You try to imagine tomorrow, the briefings, the handshakes that mean good luck without ever saying it out loud. The crew chiefs grin half teeth, half don't break my plane. Kid, the cold ladder under your boots as you climb up into a cockpit that never really feels big enough. Then the sky. Always the sky. Too wide to keep promises but polite enough to swallow you for a few hours at a time. Up there, you're just another speck with an engine strapped to your chest, hoping the weather is kinder than your orders. Your eyes squeeze shut again. The hangar goes dark behind your eyelids, darker than the inside of the plane, darker than the thoughts you sometimes tuck under your tongue so they won't spill out in front of the others. You listen instead, the wind scratching the roof, a boot heel knocking against metal, the soft drum of a heartbeat you pretend is your own engine ticking over for tomorrow. In this little corner of borrowed sleep, you promise yourself one gentle lie: maybe tonight you'll get real rest. Maybe tonight the sky will stay quiet and the engines will wait. You almost believe it. Almost. And that's enough for now. A deep breath. A slow exhale. You let the cot creak one more time just to remind you it's still here, still holding you up when the rest of the world forgets you're trying to dream. Somewhere beyond the hangar. Tomorrow waits. But it can wait a little longer. Right now, you've got this thin blanket. This dented coin. This patch of darkness that belongs only to you until the engines grow restless again. Sometimes you don't even bother with the cot. Sometimes you fold yourself into an armchair that's been dragged in from somewhere else, an officer's lounge, a half-minus burned mist tent, maybe stolen outright from some colonel who never missed it. Its stuffing leaks like white fluff from a wound, but you don't mind. It knows how to cradle a spine that's forgotten what softness feels like. You're slumped in sideways, boots propped on a crate of something you're not cleared to touch, flares maybe, or boxes of stale biscuits that taste like damp cardboard dipped in tea. The crate makes a good footrest. You could almost call it comfort if the armchair didn't smell faintly of stale cigars and the last 5 pilots who sweated through it. Somewhere nearby, a kettle rattles on a field stove. Water bubbling but never quite boiling, like it's too tired to do the full job tonight. A tin mug appears in your hand, passed along by someone else equally sleepless. You take a sip. It's half coffee, half whatever passed for ration sugar this week. It tastes like warm metal. You don't care. Warm metal is better than cold metal when the world's about to freeze you stiff. This is what passes for ritual now. The quiet cup. The low chatter. A laugh that sticks in the throat because it's easier than letting the silence do its worst. Someone hums a tune off minus key, but soft enough to keep the ghosts in the corners from getting any ideas. You find your eyes tracing the ceiling beams. Rust creeps along the rivets like an old map of rivers you'll never fly over. A single bulb dangles overhead, flickering every time the wind worries the wires. You count the flickers like it's a good omen if the light stays. So will you. There's a new kid tonight, always is. Fresh face. Hair still neat, boots to clean. He tries to copy how the older ones sprawl, pretending HES used to this waiting game. But his shoulders won't relax. His eyes keep darting to the door, half hoping the sergeant won't burst in, half hoping he will so the dread can stop coiling in his gut. You'd tell him not to worry, but you won't. Nobody here wants spitty, not even the soft kind. You just lift your mug a little in his direction, the universal sign you're one of us now, kid. Drink up and pretend it helps. And so the night carries on a circle of tin mugs, mismatched chairs, boots stamping out a nervous rhythm on crates and concrete. Out there, the big iron birds rest under canvas covers, engines dreaming in metal tongues only mechanics can translate. They're waiting for you, like loyal hounds with a bite you never quite trust. You drain the last mouthful. Bitter grounds stick to your teeth. You let them. You remind yourself you'll taste something sweeter tomorrow if tomorrow comes on time. And when the mug links empty on the crate, when the chair squeaks as you shift your weight, you feel it again, that thin thread of sleet teasing you closer, promising you an hour. Maybe two, if you're lucky and the engines stay quiet just a little longer. No prayers tonight. Just the kettle, the chair, the hum of an old tune nobody quite remembers the words to. That's enough blessing for now. The hum of the airfield never really stops. Even when you're pretending to sleep, blanket pulled halfway up, boots still on in case the scramble order comes. You feel it under your skin. A soft vibration through the concrete floor, through the hangar walls, through your own bones. It's the engines, or the wind. Or maybe it's just your pulse trying to convince you it's brave enough to keep going. Sometimes, you lie there and listen to the mechanics outside. They talk in a language of wrenches and muffled curses, boots clanking up ladders, oiled rungs rolling where they shouldn't. They're your night watch, your half-minus scene guardians with grease-minus slick hands and coffee breath. If they do their job right, you get to keep counting dawns. If they don't, well, you try not to finish that thought. Above you, a draft sneaks in through a cracked skylight. It whistles over your blanket, makes you curl tighter, nose tucked into your sleeve to hide from the cold. Some nights, it feels like the wind is practicing its saying, trying to find the soft spot under your ribs. You mumble into the rough, well, not tonight. Try again tomorrow. On your shelf, really just a plank nailed to the wall, you keep a handful of small, stubborn things. A brass button from a jacket that isn't yours anymore. A stub of pencil worn down to a nub. A photograph with creased corners. The faces half-minus faded, but still grinning like fools who didn't know how many clouds they'd meet. Sometimes you touch them before you sleep, just to remind yourself you exist when the engines aren't screaming. A few cots away, someone's snoring. Not gentle, not polite, the kind of snore that cuts through thin walls and thinner nerves. You think about throwing a boot. You don't. Let him sleep. HES earned it the same way you have, the same way you have delay. One shaky landing at a time. The lights overhead are out, but the green glow of a single emergency bulb throws shadows that twitch when you blink too slow. You watch them move. Wings, maybe. Or just your mind teasing you with what's waiting when the next dawn drags you back up there. Your hand finds the edge of the blanket. You fold it tighter under your chin, pretend it's a heavier quilt, one from home. The one you kicked off your bed 1,000 times as a kid because you were too hot. Too alive to care about warmth. Funny how warmth becomes a religion when you're older, colder, running on borrowed hours. Outside, a cough of an engine stirs. Not yours. Not yet. But it's coming. It always does. You squeeze your eyes shut. Tell yourself you'll dream about something better this time. Rain on a roof, bread fresh from an oven, someone waiting by a door with the porch light still on. You don't expect the dream to come true, but you breathe softer anyway, just in case tonight's the night you get to keep it. The worst part about trying to sleep as a pilot isn't the noise, though there's plenty of that, or the cold, though your toes would argue otherwise. No, the worst part is your own brain. It's never quite done talking. Even when your mouth is shut and your eyelids are heavy, it whispers things like, "Did you double minus check the fuel mix? Did you really hear that engine knock, or did you imagine it? Will your luck run out tomorrow morning?" You'd think exhaustion would help. It doesn't. The body begs for rest, but the mind sits up straight, flipping through every page of the day that just ended, as if it'll find an error it can erase before the sun comes up. So you bargain with yourself. If I just lie still, I'll sleep. If I count backward from 50, I'll sleep. If I hold my breath until my chest aches, maybe the hush afterward will trick my thoughts into drifting off too. Some pilots swear by rituals. Socks folded just so at the foot of the cot. A silent prayer whispered to no god in particular, but to all of them at once. A coin flipped under the pillow, heads for a good landing, tails for another sunrise. You don't mock them for it. You have your own strange habits anyway. Who doesn't? When you spend your days above the clouds and your nights under a tin roof, you'll cling to any superstition that promises to stitch the two halves together. The card game in the corner ends. Cards slap the table one last time. Boots scuff. Chairs scrape. Laughter fades into sighs. One by one they lie down. The brave ones sleep with a hand draped over their flight jacket, fingers curled like they're still gripping the yoke. Just muscle memory, some say. Or maybe they're holding on to the only thing that makes sense anymore: the feel of metal, the hum of propellers, the illusion of control. Outside, the night thickens. The wind hushes itself. The sky turns over, stirring the stars into new shapes you can't see through the hangar roof, but you imagine anyway. If you squint into the dark long enough, you can almost pretend the world beyond these walls is gentle. A place would on doesn't mean orders, and orders don't mean risk. Your breath slows. Not quite sleep. Not quite awake. A soft limbo that pilots know better than most. The hush between takeoff and landing, between heartbeat and silence. If you're lucky, it'll last the whole night. A cough breaks the quiet. Someone shifts. Someone else mutters a half-minus dreamed word name. Maybe you decide not to listen. Not everything whispered here wants to be remembered. You roll on to your other side. Nestle deeper into the cot that's too narrow for comfort but wide enough for hope. Tomorrow will come. Engines will roar. Orders will bark. But for now, you let the hush win. Your mind makes one last promise to itself: tomorrow you'll sleep better. It's a lie you're willing to believe. For now, that's enough. Some nights, when the wind outside really howls and the hangar rattles like an old tin toy, you wonder if your bunk is actually inside the plane itself. The draft under the door feels like an open cockpit at 10,000 feet. The smell of oil and metal is the same. The cold metal frame of your cot might as well be the fuselage. You'd think that after enough nights like this, you'd get used to it. But the truth is, you don't sleep because you're used to it. You sleep because you're tired not to. And on the nights when sleep won't come on command, well, that's when the strangest parts of a pilot's bedtime ritual come creeping in. There's the one who reads letters from home, over and over, until the paper nearly tears in his hands. He mouths the words silently in the dark, like a spell to keep the worst news away. There's the one who talks out loud to an empty bunk across the aisle, to a buddy who flew west last week and didn't come back. Some men hum songs with no tune. Some recite flight manuals like bedtime stories. You're no exception. Your secret trick is to imagine you're already flying. You close your eyes and let your breath match the drone of engines that aren't there. You hear them anyway. For engines, if you're lucky. One for each thought you'd rather not have tonight. You picture the dark sky outside your canopy, the red glow of gauges, the subtle vibration under your boots. In your head, you're already off the ground, safely between here and nowhere. The truth is, the ground can feel more dangerous than the sky. On the ground, you're still. On the ground, you can think. Up there, you don't have time for thinking, only doing. So you fly yourself to sleep in your mind. Maybe that's the strangest habit of all. You shift under your blanket. It doesn't do much. But it reminds you that you're not up there yet. That you're still breathing ground air, with cold feet and stiff shoulders on an alarm clock that'll bark at you before your dreams have finished their sentences. A cough echoes down the row of bunks. Someone rolls over. A match flares another last cigarette before bed. The smell of burnt tobacco drifts over, warm and sharp, a reminder that you're not alone in this restless half-minded sleep. There's comfort in that, in a weird way. Misery does love company, especially when the company knows exactly how to drift off with one boot still on the floor. Your hand finds the small lucky charm you keep tucked in your pocket, a button from your old jacket, polished smooth by worry. You press it to your palm and pretend it's enough to keep the engine safe tomorrow. Superstition is the only currency you trust in a place where luck feels like the real commanding officer. Outside, the wind dies for a moment. The hangar's ribs creak once, then settle. Far off, a dog barks at the moon, or maybe at nothing at all. You breathe in the quiet and try to hold it. Sleep comes in snippets. A minute here, 10 there. You'll take what you can get. For a pilot, that's more than enough. There's something oddly tender about the way pilots talk in the dark. It's not the daytime chatter, the sharp jokes, the bravado, the half-minded shouted arguments about fuel loads and flight paths. At night, all that falls away. The voices are softer, closer to secrets than conversation. You lie there listening, eyes open to the darkness overhead. The metal roof above you might as well be the belly of your bomber. You hear boots scuffing against concrete, a zipper tugged open for the 100th time, a low laugh that sounds too tired to be loud. It's not exactly comforting, but it's real, and real is good enough. Someone nearby mutters a string of words that sound like prayers but aren't. They're more like instructions to the night itself. Keep the wings strong. Keep the engines kind. Keep the sky clear. Or at least clear enough. You don't join in, but you think it anyway, your own silent appeal to whatever force decides whose luck holds and whose runs out. Sometimes a pilot next to you will start a story. Not the grand, heroic kind, but the mundane ones. About the girl they danced with once, or the farm they left behind, or the dog that used to follow them to school. You'd think it's strange, but it isn't. These scraps of normal life keep the night human. They remind you there's something to go back to, assuming you're lucky enough to go back at all. You pull your knees up, tucking the blanket tighter around your shoulders. It's scratchy and thin, but it holds the stories in. If you lie still enough, you can almost feel your own words slip out, the memories you don't say out loud. The porch steps back home. The smell of rain on a warm road. A mother's voice calling you in for supper long before you knew what a sortie was. You trade 1,000 medals for one more dinner at that old table. But the past stays where it is. Here, you make do with the smell of cigarettes and oil, the distant cough of someone who can't shake the cold, the steady drip of rain leaking through the hangar roof, tapping in time with your heartbeat. A single bulb overhead flickers. You don't bother getting up to switch it off. The darkness will claim it soon enough. You watch the pale glow paint shadows on the floor, boots, a duffel bag, the outline of your helmet perched on its side like a ghostly head waiting for you to wear it again. Sleep, when it comes, doesn't knock politely. It creeps in through your eyelids, curls into the hollow of your chest. You'll dream of things that have nothing to do with this place, a sky with no flack, a field of tall grass you can lie down in without a radio buzzing at your hip. Outside, the wind shifts. The roof groans. A card game 3 bunks down dissolves into whispers. Someone wins. Someone folds their cards and mutters they'd rather lose here than up there tomorrow. You agree silently. You always do. You wake up because you always do, never because you want to. Something small always pulls you back. A boot dropping from a bunk. A cough from the corner. The creak of the hangar door letting in a draft that smells faintly of rain and something burning far off. Probably nothing, but a cook stove pushed too hard. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. Someone's up already, lacing boots by feel. You watch him for a moment, the way he pauses. Flexes his fingers, rubs sleep from his neck. He catches you looking and grins. Teeth white in the half-minus dark. Might as well, he whispers, though he doesn't explain what that means. Everyone understands without saying much. You sit up. The blanket slips to your waist. Your breath makes a faint cloud in the cold air. You swing your legs over the side of the cot and let your feet find the concrete, solid, cold, real. You tap your boots out from under the bunk and tug them on one at a time. The laces stiff with old mud. No one speaks loudly. Dawn isn't here yet, but it's thinking about it. The hangar feels like a lawn holding its breath, all metal ribs and echoing coughs of life inside. You join the slow shuffle toward the tin pot of coffee someone's braved the elements to brew. It's mostly grounds and bitter steam, but it's hot and that's all that matters. You cradle the mug in your hands like it's a gift from a kinder world. You let yourself pretend it's Sunday morning at home, the clink of a spoon, the scrape of toast, the quiet of a kitchen that has never known the word sortie. Someone cracks a joke about rations. Someone else swats him with a rolled minus-up newspaper, yesterday's news. Stale headlines about fronts and lines that might as well be the edge of the universe for all you'll ever see of them. You stand there, mug warming your palms, staring at the mat pinned crooked on the wall. Lines and pins and circles. Routes you might fly. Routes you hope you never see again. Somewhere on there is tomorrow, and you wish you could fold the paper and put it away for good. Instead, you finish your coffee, scald your tongue a little on purpose, a small pain to remind you you're still here. Still waiting. Back at your bunk, you find your helmet where you left it, the straps frayed. The inside still smells faintly of your own sweat and something chemical you can't name. You turn it over in your hands like you're each checking for secrets. Outside, the first gray light pushes under the hangar door. It's cold. You feel it in your teeth. Someone lights a cigarette, coughs, flicks ash into an old tin can. A few feet away, an engine starts up with a low growl, the mechanic's getting a head start. Testing life back into metal, that LL carry your name on its wing. You pull your jacket tighter, feel the pockets for your good luck charm. Still there, always there. A ribbon, a coin, a scrap of a letter you never finished. Proof that someone, somewhere, once wished you well enough to give you something to hold on to. The man next to you mutters. Weather's clearing. You nod. Of course it is. It always clears when you almost wish it wouldn't. You close your eyes, just for a heartbeat. You don't pray. Not really. But you think about home, the kitchen table, the sun in the curtains, the sound of someone calling your name like it's just an ordinary day. And then you open your eyes again. You're not there. You're here. And here, you do what you must. There's an hour, maybe less, between that first coffee and the growl of engines that means there's no going back to bed today. You stand with your back to the hangar wall. Boots planted on oil-stained concrete. Helmet in your hands like you're about to step onto some holy ground instead of a patched-up airfield. Outside, they're lighting them up. The big birds with their bellies full of fuel and whatever else Scummon decided needed delivering today. A crew chief waves a wrench like a conductor's baton, directing ground crew in a ballet of last checks and muttered curses. Someone hands you a clipboard. You sign your name where your name always goes. next to a list of numbers that say how much fuel, how many rounds, how many chances you have before the sky decides you've had enough. You watch the others. Some pace. Some light another cigarette even though they just finished the last one. One of them leans against a wheel, eyes closed, mouthing something that might be a prayer or maybe just a grocery list for a home they haven't seen into Christmases. A mechanic pops open a panel on your plane's wing, mutters something about it holding for now. You don't ask what exactly is holding. You don't really want to know. If it flies, that's the deal. You do the same dance you always do but your pocket's map. Charm, pencil stub. Tap your helmet against your knee like it'll knock any stray fear loose. Climb up the metal steps that led to the cockpit, each run the soft farewell to gravity. Inside, it's familiar in a way a coffin might be familiar tight. Shaped to you, lined with all the things that could carry you safely or bury you fast. You settle in, strap down. The seat is cold through your flight suit. You run your gloves over the controls like you're saying good morning to an old friend who owes you nothing but tries anyway. Outside, the air stirs with the smell of exhaust and wet grass. The sun breaks through low clouds and strips of gold that make the oil slick shine like a saint's halo. It's almost pretty if you squint hard enough to forget where you are. Your crew chief climbs up, leans in, shouts over the engines, coughs, shall take care of you if you take care of her. You nod. You hope it's true. The canopy closes with a thud that seals you in your own small world glass. Dials, the sound of your breath bouncing off metal and back again. You flick switches in the order you learned so well you could do it half minus asleep and often do. For a moment, you press your forehead to the glass. It's cold. It helps. Out on the tarmac, the others are moving too. Planes lining up nose to tail like waiting animals at a waterhole. You can see their faces, or at least the shape of helmet stern forward. No one waves. Waving feels to final. A tap on the fuselage. A thumbs minus up from the crew chief. You return it. Because that's the ritual, the last thing before the roar swallows up everything else. When the engines catch properly, the whole world vibrates. You feel it in your chest, in your teeth. You mouth the checklist one last time, flaps. Trim, gear like a bedtime prayer, only backward. And then you taxi out, slow and careful. Wheels humming over cracks and patched holes. The runway lies ahead. Long and thin and exactly wide enough to carry you from here to somewhere you'd rather not think about yet. You glance at the sky. Blue enough for flying. Gray enough for hiding. You can live with that. A voice crackles in your headset number. A call sign. A green light you didn't ask for but take all the same. You tighten your grip, settle your shoulders, and tell the engine, all right then. Let's see who wakes up on the other side. The throttle slides forward. The ground blurs. The earth lets go. And for a moment, you're lighter than anything down there. The climb is always the same, engines pushing you higher than any sane person should want to be, wings slicing air so thin it barely bothers to resist. The ground slips away until it's just a rumor under your boots, somewhere past the whine of turbines and the steady click of your altimeter. You level out at the agreed minus upon height. The sky here is a cold blank, a tinless blue, the sun too sharp to feel warm. You flick your eyes across your gauges, pretend you're not noticing how the hands tremble on your stick every time you shift your grid. Up here, you're a line in a notebook, a pencil mark on someone's map. Below you, towns, rivers, farm fields stitched like an old quilt. Somewhere down there, someone's baking bread, hanging out laundry, listening for the faint echo of your engines as if it's just the wind misbehaving. You check your formation. Other birds hang at their stations, a ragged flock stitched together by training and superstition. You watch their wings catch the sun, wink at you like they know, the same joke that every pilot up here thinks they're invisible. Untouchable, right until they're not. The radio chatters, short bursts, code words, a cough of static that says nothing and everything all at once. You respond with a click of your mic, no words. No point in words when the sky's the one in charge. A shadow flickers across your canopy, just a passing cloud, or maybe not. You tighten your shoulders, glance left, right. Everything's fine. Everything's fine until it isn't. Your hand slips into your jacket pocket. Finds that lucky charm again, maybe a photo. Maybe a scrap of ribbon that once meant nothing and now means sleep might come easier when you land. You tell yourself you're not superstitious, but your pocket says otherwise. A bead of sweat slides down your neck. Chills instantly in the high minus altitude air. You wish you could shrug it off like you do on the ground. But up here, every drop feels like a message. Stay awake. Stay sharp. Stay alive. Minutes pass like hours. Hours pass like minutes. The drone of the engine weaves itself into the hum of your blood until it's hard to tell which is which. You glance at your watch. Still too early for anything to go wrong. Still too late to turn back. Below, the fields crawl by. You spot a river you crossed on a bicycle once, another lifetime ago. The memory flickers a warm afternoon. A girl on a bridge. The promise of a tomorrow you didn't yet know how to fear. You tuck it away. Not now. Not here. A glint catches your eye, a distant flash where the horizon hums. Could be the sun. Could be company. You shift your stick. Adjust your course just enough to keep your mind busy. The squadron holds steady. Wings level. Engines sure. For now, the air is your friend. The machine your partner. For now, you're suspended in a moment where nothing has found you yet. You reach down, tap the dash, twice. Another ritual. Another tiny lie you tell the sky, I'm ready for you. And maybe, just maybe, it believes you. You'd think that when the wheels hit tarmac again, your bones would relax, your mind would sigh, your heartbeat would agree to settle down. But no, when your boots finally scrape the ground, a different kind of tension creeps in, one that no altitude can thin out. You taxi in, engines cough in their last warm breath. The ground crew appears like ghosts in greasy overalls, waving signals you could interpret in your sleep. Maybe you do. Maybe your feet already know which pedal to press before your brain catches up. Climbing out is a ritual in itself. You unbuckle. Swing your legs over the side, drop into the smell of oil and damp earth. Someone hands you a mug of something hot that tastes like burned chicory and borrowed time. You swallow it anyway. You stand there, helmet under your arm, pretending your legs are remembering the sky's weight. Pretending the humming in your ears is just the wind. Not your nerves replaying every second you just survived. There's chatter on the edge of the runway, mechanics arguing over stubborn fuel line. A couple of pilots flicking cigarettes into puddles. Boots scuffing at oil stains that look suspiciously like maps you'd rather not read. You join them, shoulders bumping like you're all just kids in line for a fairground ride you hate but can't resist. Someone jokes about the weather. How it's never on your side. How it might decide to ground you or send you straight back up before you finish your second smoke. You nod, grin, and check the sky, as if it might answer back. It never does. You catch yourself fingering the edge of your pocket where the charm sits. Warm from your body. You remind yourself to breathe, to feel the concrete under your boots, to remember that for the next few hours, gravity owes you this patch of earth. Back in the ready room, you peel off your jacket, toss it over the same rickety chair that threatens to collapse every other week. You sink into it anyway, trusting the bolts you can't see to hold, just like you trust the wings you sit on when you're airborne. The room hums with half-minus finished stories. Tales that start with, "You should have seen," and end in laughter that's just a bit too loud. Nobody says the ending out loud. You should have seen me if I hadn't made it back. You press your palms against your eyes, try to rub the sky out of them. It lingers anyway. In the scratch at the back of your throat, the smell of fuel that clings to your hair, the gentle ache behind your ribs that says you were up there. You're down here. You'll go up again. Someone tosses you a pack of cards. You catch it, shuffle absent-mindedly. It's never about winning the game. It's about passing the hours until sleep has the courtesy to visit. You flip a card. At ace. Good omen maybe. Or just paper. Depends on how you feel tonight. Outside, the hangar creaks as it settles into dusk. Engines cool. Shadows stretch long across the runway. Somewhere, a mechanic bangs a wrench against metal and curses a bolt that won't budge, same as it ever was. You sit a little lower in your chair. Push your boots out until your heels thud against the floor. You tell yourself you'll only close your eyes for a minute. Just enough to listen to the quiet, to promise yourself tomorrow's climb will be fine. You know better, of course, but you make the promise anyway. Sleep, when it does come, never asks permission. It simply drifts in, uninvited. A draft through the cracks of the hangar or the barracks door left ajar, and you, an exhausted pilot, take what you're given, curling into the thin mattress, like you're folding yourself into the cockpit all over again. Your boots never get too far. One lies on its side under the cot, laces splayed like they gave up halfway through a knot. The other leans against the wall, collecting dust and prayers in equal measure. Your own version of a bedtime story with no real ending. Around you, the room hushes in stages. Cards slap against wood, then go still. Someone clears their throat. Someone else mutters something about tomorrow's weather. And you? Well, you're already half gone, drifting through the oil-slit haze that floats above these bunks like a low cloud no wind ever clears. If you dream in static bursts. A horizon that tilts just a bit too far. The taste of cold air behind your teeth. A flicker of sunlight off your winging. Clean and sharp, a blade in the sky. The echo of your own voice calling out checks to a crew that only exists inside your head. Now and then, you wake up just enough to hear the world argue with itself. The wind rattling corrugated tin. The distant cough of an engine that maybe shouldn't be coughing at this hour. A radio squawking half a continent away. Nothing urgent yet, just the night, testing its voice. You shift under the blanket, Army-issue. Scratchy as ever, and press your shoulder deeper into the thin pillow that smells faintly of the last guy to sleep here. You imagine him telling you, half-minus awake, that you'll get used to the smell. You never do. In the quiet, your mind fidgets with small comforts. You picture the crew chief's lucky wrench, always tucked in the same back pocket like a charm against bad landings. You picture your mother's letter, folded twice in your chest pocket, the corners worn soft from the 1,000 times you've read it by lantern light. You picture your plane crouched out there on the tarmac, belly still warm, waiting for you to come back and ask too much of it again. Sleep tugs you under, but lightly, like a tide that doesn't want you to deep. It knows you'll have to surface soon enough. Boots half-laced, helmet crooked on your head. Eyes raw but clear enough to chase the horizon one more time. You drift in this half-minus place where your bed creaks in protest every time you roll your shoulder, where the engine's echo blends with your breath, where the sky outside isn't quite done calling your name. Somewhere near dawn, the silence grows heavier, settling into the rafters. The bunks, the oil cans lined up like sentries against the wall. You don't stir. Not yet. You hold onto the blanket like it's a promise, a few more minutes, a few more heartbeats, a few more borrowed dreams before the cold finds its way under the hen. And when you do wake, when you swing your feet down, find the boot that's flipped itself upright, rub the oil smudge from your eyebrow. It's not with surprise. It's with the dull nod of someone who understands this is the deal you made. The sky gives you lift, and the ground gives you sleep if you can catch it. You stand, stretch your back until it pops, and glance at the door, still closed, for now. You breathe, deep and quiet, and wonder how much longer the blanket will hold your warmth once you are gone. It won't. That's all right. Maybe tonight you'll sleep somewhere else, some field tent in France, some borrowed barn with hay that sticks in your collar, or maybe back here under the same leaking roof. It doesn't matter much. Wherever you lay your head, it's the same bargain, the ground for a moment, the sky forever tugging you back. You've learned that the trick to drifting off, if you want to call it a trick, is not to fight the hum in your head. Not the echo of engines or the ghostly rattle of the fuselage or the clink of your own belt buckle tapping the metal frame when you shift in your sleep. These noises come with you, stitched into the seams of your jacket, woven through the threads of your dreams. Some nights you think you hear your crew, Mick with his endless cough, Jonesy humming to Leslie, the tail gunner cursing at the cold. But you're alone. Really, always alone in the last stretch before sleep, when the world shrinks to the shape of your cot and the weight of your boots at your feet. If you're lucky, there's a letter tucked under your pillow. Someone's handwriting looping on imperfect, carrying the promise of an ordinary world that isn't covered in engine grease and frostbite warnings. Maybe it smells faintly of soap with a corner store you used to walk past on Saturdays. You read it in your head, line by line, until the words run together like headlights on a rainy runway. Outside, the wind moves around the hangar like it's looking for gaps. It always finds them under the door, through the cracked window, around your neck if you're careless. You mumble at it under your breath, something half minus prayer, half minus grumble. It doesn't answer. It never does. Tomorrow, they'll wake you with a shout or a kick at your boot heel. The mission board will glare at you with its neat lines and messy promises. You'll nod, adjust your collar, and pretend that sleep did its job. It never really does, but it tries. You give it that. Tonight, though, you get a few more heartbeats. You nestle deeper into the lumpy mattress, ignoring the spring that digs at your hip. You trace the outline of the ceiling with your eyes, pipes and beams, half minus rusted bolts. The shadow of a moth resting until the morning chill shoos it away. Maybe you whisper goodnight to the crew who came before you, go stuck in their own cots, boots lined up like faithful dogs under beds that don't remember their names anymore. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just exhale, slow and careful, so you don't wake yourself back up. Sleep, for pilots, is a promise you keep breaking. You lay it down next to your flight plan, your fuel sheet, your maps crawled with places you'll never see except from 12,000 feet above. You borrow it, just long enough to fool your heartbeat into settling, your thoughts into slowing, your fingers into unclenching from imaginary controls. And when it's done, when the engines call you back, when the ground crew's voices drift through the hangar or you forgot to latch, you'll open your eyes like you always do. No surprise, no complaint. You'll lace your boots with the same knot, shrug into your jacket, tuck the lucky scrap of paper back into your pocket where it can't do much but still feels like something. You'll stand there for a breath. Maybe two, watching the sky stretch its pale arms over the runway, wondering quietly, carefully, how long before you can lie back down here again. Listen for the hum through the walls, and pretend you've got all the time in the world. Because that's what sleep is for pilots in this war, not rest, exactly, but permission. Permission to believe, for a handful of hours, that the ground will wait, and the sky will be gentle, and you strange dreamer in borrowed boots might find your way home in the dark. So here you are now, boots off, heartbeat slower, the hum of the world outside fading like a distant engine disappearing into cloud. The sky is someone else's problem for a few hours. The maps are folded. The hangar is quiet. And the cot beneath you, For all its lumps and squeaks, feels almost like a promise, just stay still a little longer. You breathe out. The blanket scratches at your chin. The wind presses at the doors, testing them, but not getting in. Somewhere on another bunk, someone's dreaming the same dream you are, of a sun that doesn't burn skin raw, of a runway that waits without hurry, of engines that never cough or sputter, but purr like old house cats on warm stone. It's not much, but it's enough. Enough to remind you that no matter how high you climb tomorrow, how cold the cockpit glass, how loud the roar behind your ears here on this patch of borrowed ground, the world can be soft for a heartbeat. So drift. Let the noise roll away like waves on some beach you haven't seen yet. Let the ache in your shoulders dissolve. Let your breath match the hush of the dark. If tomorrow asks for more of you in it, you'll meet it. But for now, tonight you are here. You are enough. And you are gently, quietly, already halfway to dreaming.